Hello, can we interview the dog?
Welcome back to the Insiders podcast with myself, Matthew Hayes, and my co-host, Darren Broadbridge. We've got a super special guest for you again this week. I'm not going to waste any more time speaking about it. Here's Darren with the intro.
Welcome to the Insiders Punters. We've got a special guest with us tonight, an ex-colleague of mine for 14 years. A quick introduction, he was born and bred in the biggest inbred part of Australia, Tasmania. Came to Europe like many a young Australian to wet his teeth on the old continent with an English passport. Started sanding in Pukas. He was already a shaping, surfboard manufacturing, sanding apprentice in Australia. So he came over to Pukas, cut his teeth, then got the call in at Euroglass over a shaper that did a runner and got the Channel Island shaping gig. Shaped a couple of boards that Kelly Slater ended up winning a world title on. Went into a bidding war with Quicksilver and Channel Islands. Launched his own brand. Met a woman. Had some children. Can still sand a surfboard better than anyone on the planet. And is the ultimate technician on looking at guys surf and ride shortboards. So that's why we've called him in to have a look at Stab in the Dark's latest episode, which is funny because he used to shape for Jack Robinson when he was a knee grasshopper with his bowl cut. He's also had a number 3 on Stab in the Dark with Geordie Smith, and they've never invited him back because he's not in the marketing department at his company and he doesn't pay Stab to put his boards in there. Welcome to the show, Christiaan Bradley.
Hi, Darren. Nice to meet you.
Welcome, Christian.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm going to let you take over from here, Matt.
Thanks very much. So, yeah, I think that's firstly a wonderful introduction to Christian. I think you sold him short a little bit on some of his work in Australia, but
how long can you talk for? Huh? We want to discuss tonight's topic and not like just piss in Bradley's pocket the whole night, because
we can do both.
Yeah, don't oversell it.
So you obviously do shape some of, if not the best, shortboards in the world. No doubt you've got at least 3 people that iron up boards for Portugal by the looks of things, who I'll leave you to name or leave unnamed. What did you first impressions on the new Stab in the Dark then, episode 1?
For me, I like the concept. I think it's a great concept as far as being a shaper, and the main component of what we do is try to land the perfect high performance surfboard under some of the world's best surfers. So that's a trick in itself. You're kind of governed by who you've shaped for in the past and what you know and what you've experienced with other surfers. You're going to base the board probably off a surfer who's similar in height and weight to the surfer you get given. Like the specs. So you're going to base it off that. They don't give you the surfer. Well, like the year I did it with Geordie, it was kind of, I worked it out because I was thinking there's not many surfers at that size and weight. So I did a bit of background research and I worked out, okay, he's that height and that weight.
And you'd already shaped board for him.
Yeah, and I'd already shaped some boards for him before, so it wasn't that hard to work out. But the sheer volume of the board was one of the tricky factors. So, but
yeah.
Footnote: Christian always struggled and doesn't necessarily like shaping for big dudes, because I remember that from your early days. Obviously, Kelly and Jeremy and that, they're not big dudes.
No.
So they're more refined. So then actually making a bigger board seem like a boat was hard.
Yes, and you've kind of got these dimensions you're going to work with. Anything above 2.5 and wider than 19 can kind of throw your eye a bit if you're just grabbing hold of the board and thinking, wow, that's a lot of volume. But the size of the guy needs that
With that, so if you say, for example, if you were invited to this year's one with Jack, would you be like, would you refine a model that you've already got? So like the template and the outline and stuff, and just refine the thickness and the rail kind of profile and the width for that surfer? Or would you think, well, he, like, for example, in the episode, they say about the breakdown on how Jack Robinson's stance is different to, say, Gabby and Italo stance. So would you start afresh, or would you take a board that you know is like pretty close and then just refine that?
Well, for sure, I'd take a board that I knew worked, and it'd probably be a board that was used by Leo Fioravanti and or some other board I had that was similar to that guy's size, and I would base it off that.
You wouldn't go back, for example, and think, I made this for Jack when he was 13, because it just wouldn't have relevance anymore.
Yeah, everything's changed since then.
Yeah.
Like dramatically. 20 years ago when I kind of first started shaping for Channel Islands, 15, 20 years ago, we were working with boards, dimensions that were like now semi-guns, step-up boards. I mean, Kelly's ultimate board then was 6'1", 18 1/4, 2 1/4. So, boards were really, back then they were running on rocker and basically the rocker, not so much, the outline or the volume. The volumes are very low as well. So the surfing was different because they were, you were getting the speed. They were getting the speed from the length and technique, the length of the board. The rocker was super important. So that's how they were gaining their speed. There was a lot of rail surfing, and they had to really link their turns through. And if there was a wave that, you didn't have as much power, you would lose a lot of that momentum. So now boards have changed where the rockers stayed current, but now with the width and the extra surface area, boards they've come down in length, but with the width, they've gained a lot of momentum, a lot of surface, a lot of planing area. So with that, now you can add a whole lot of different rockers. That we've seen a lot of different rockers that work. So
would you be able to guess, or off the top of your head, how much volume do you reckon one of those 6'1", 18 1/4, 2 1/4 round pins that he used to have would have?
25?
Yeah, I'd say around 25.
They were two speeds.
Even 24.5 to 25. But I mean, I remember the one that Simon did for Kelly, that Kelly rode for years and had a lot of wins, Brown Beauty.
Matt talked about it with Matt Parker. That was one with the twist.
Yeah, that was a magic board for Kelly in it. So that was obviously a magic rocker. The board was very narrow, very thin. It was actually only 2 1/8 in the centre. I remember Simon told me.
Yeah, huge concave.
Yeah, big concave that he dragged through it. And but the rails, they kind of carried the volume out to the rails, that 2 1/4 volume out to the rail. So it was a bit different, that board. But that board went with 3 creases across the deck. I remember repairing it, and there was something, super magic about that board.
Simon said.
So when you look at it,
being on that day,
when you look at it, it was more rocker than anything. Like the nose widths were 11 inches, maybe under. Now you're looking at boards. The standard short board for guys is like anywhere, 12 plus. The tail width would have been 13 7/8, and like at 13 7/8 now, you're looking at, these are step up semi guns.
So cloud break or choku or a Y.
Yeah. So back then, 15, 20 get, you were kind of running on rocker and length alone.
So if we divert slightly from the current Stab in the Dark, just hypothetically, you get an invite to shape a board for Kelly now. If you knew, like, okay, so this is Stab in the Dark, so CI are going to do what CI do, Lost are going to do what Lost do, blah, blah, blah. Would you maybe take the thought of, do you know what, I'm going to go back old school and see if he likes it?
No way.
And I knew.
And why?
You just can't.
Because Kelly would just walk away from it, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
Surfing's evolved from that.
Yeah.
From those style boards. Boards have gotten easier to surf.
Yeah.
From that evolution of wider, shorter, well, not so much shorter length. Length is starting to come back into it now. Guys are realising that you need that length for nice surfing. It adds an element where you're creating it's more visually beautiful to watch. Those full rail turns and arcs look really good.
Yeah, which is why I kind of thought maybe Kelly would be or anyone would be, because we just spoke to Jackson Baker, who was on a 6'8", and he said that 6'8" is 31 litres. So probably if you scaled that down, but then again, he wouldn't be able, like Jackson, for example, wouldn't then be able to go to a 6'1" that's 25 litres. So it's not kind of a moving scale as such, is it? But okay, so back
with that 6'8" as well, in those sort of ways that are at Sunset is correct. With paddling, length gives you planing.
Yeah.
So whether it's got the volume, it's obviously it's important, but the actual surface area on the water gives you the planing speed to paddle.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we go back
that
to
doesn't cross over to small waves, really, because in smaller waves you need the transition is a lot shorter. So you've got to have that shorter. That's why shortboards have evolved to fit smaller pockets.
And you'd know if Jack, for example, that they're giving you the specs for this board, they're also telling the guys, I'm assuming, that he's going to be surfing in Hawaii. So you've got to think he's going to have, you didn't see it in episode 1, you've got to think he's going to have a crack at Sunset, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Being Mr. Sun,
yes.
Junior Mr. Sunset.
Yeah. But from my experience, I know shortboards, your classic shortboard works a lot different in Hawaii than it does anywhere else in the world. I don't know why, but there's a reason. Maybe it's the power. I don't know.
In what respect that works?
Well, I think there you've got a lot more push. So you're gonna take that board from where it goes good in Hawaii because you're surfing with a bit of power and a bit of push, and it's it's easy to put in the pocket. Whereas you go to somewhere like Australia or somewhere, and you're surfing a beach with not that push, the board's going to go way different.
Yeah,
you're going to prefer another board compared to that board probably.
How hard do you think it was for the shapers to notice Jack Robbo? Because his dims aren't he's not super tall, super big, super wide. I guess
it's pretty standard in a pro surfer shape, doesn't he? When you look at him before,
yeah,
kind of looks like.
So do you reckon almost every shaper probably had a similar surfer of those height and dims and just went, I'll imagine I'm shaping for him?
Yeah, they would have selected what they knew,
Yeah.
For their guy. And there's a big amount of luck to picking the right dimensions, to picking the right volume, to picking the right rocker you're going to use.
Tell me about it. I do it daily.
Whether the guy's a front foot surfer, whether he's kind of back foot, how he stands, like some guys surf right off the tail. So a board that's more suited to a guy who drives off his front foot and really surfs more off their front foot, and there's a lot of luck. There's a big amount of luck.
Those we saw, Matt will take the lead from me here. For example, the first two surfers we saw had thick tails.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Timmy Patterson and the Cabianca, I thought Jack looked a little I thought they looked too big for him, especially the Cabianca, and they definitely looked bigger.
I watched it my second time now, Matt. When I first watched it, I was like, because I'm a Jack fan, I was like, fuck, he can just rip on anything. And then when I'm watching it the second time over the shoulder of Christian, I'm seeing all the parts where he's struggling.
For me, it was I noticed it most when he stepped onto the third board, the Pukas. That was when I was like, oh, okay, that you can see where even when he comes off his bottom turn, just how he sets it and he knifes it from that off the bottom. The other two, you can almost go back it and see that he's nursing it a bit and struggling a little bit to sink it.
Yeah, it's easy for us to watch that because you can see they name the board and you can tell who the surfer is for that surfboard.
They're feeding us.
Yeah. So you've got a bit of background knowledge to the surfer where that board may or may not have come from. So you're looking at the Brazilians. How they've kind of got the same similar style individual, but they're very heavy footed. You know what I mean? Whereas you watch Jack and he surfs more open face carved. He lets the board open up, and he's got all the tricks.
So when you say that, it kind of makes me think where you said you would try and work it out who it's for and stuff like that. That then sounds to me like they basically made the board for example, Cabianca made the board as if it was going to be Medina surfing it, like Medina wants to surf it. And do you not think that's maybe a bad call, considering most, I would argue that Jack Robinson's got a more textbook style to the way he surfs off of his back foot, whereas like Gabby and Islo, they have a more kind of modern stance and surf with a flatter board. Do you reckon that's a mistake?
No. Maybe they were probably thinking, look, I'm going to, I'll make the board as I know what works really well. I don't care about his style. I don't care really about it, who the surfer's going to be.
Yeah,
he's going to get on this board that I do, and he's going to think this is the best thing in the world. This is the best board I've ever surfed.
Confidence.
Yeah. So every shaper has that amount of confidence behind what they're doing. They know how the rail's meant to look through the back. Would
your tail have been that thick though?
Oh, just by looking at some, I probably would have. You know what you would do.
In retrospect.
In retrospect, looking, I would say, okay, I would have done probably a nice pulled squash, and I probably wouldn't have had the amount of litres that those ones that he did think were.
Yeah, because that was 29.5, and he thought it was 31, which is funny.
So what you're seeing probably there is those guys are used to the shapers, a couple of Californian shapers, which their boards seem to be, carry a bit more volume for surfing over there. You see that with those West Coast kind of Californian style boards and the Brazilian ones as well. So there's some similarities between those two, whereas Australian boards to me and, maybe European so much, Hawaiian, seem to be a bit more refined in some ways.
100% agree. 100% agree. You like, even on some small wave boards and more user-friendly boards that come from you and other Australian shapers, they've still got a way more refined and sharper rail edge, especially off the tail.
I'm not saying refined as in one's better than the other or something. Yeah, because, some people prefer volume compared to being under-volumed, whereas it just depends on the surfer. And Jack would, he's evolved to, a top 10 surfer in the world. So he knows what he wants to pick up. He knows what he wants to feel, and he knows what's going to work. Even before he goes and surfs it, I think he would have picked up ones and gone, this one's going to really work. So he's already heading out with a mindset that this board's going to do something pretty spectacular.
You reckon maybe he picked those two boards there straight at the start because he thought, I'm not sure I'm going to like these, so let's get him out of the road?
Probably. Yeah.
I think so.
Probably thought I'll start off with the worst looking ones first.
If you we're going to do a couple of these episodes for each episode. If you were to pick a winner straight away, would you say that Eric Cower's odds on?
Well, he knows. He would have probably had an insight that was. He would have known Jack's weight and height and everything, and he thought, I'm just going to do him Jack. But
before it was released, when they'd done the teaser, I said to one of the directors I work with that for no reason at all, I think Pukas are going to win it. And actually there is a reason behind it. It's because they've been runner up and top 3 in everyone that they've gone for.
Yeah.
And that was before I even know who else had entered. I knew Pukas was going into it, but yeah, obviously Cower's, like, you would say that he's the favourite to win.
I think what they did this year was kind of interesting. Is they threw a curveball by saying you've got to eliminate one straight off the bat. Now it was Pang, and he's an incredible shaper.
See, again, this is me crystal balling, but I'm glad I'll go on record early and say it. I've got a feeling that board's going to get ridden and make an appearance. I can't see how they're going to write off a board like that.
I'd play along with that too. But
could you imagine?
When I looked at it, I saw the tail did, to me, just by watching, the tail looked a little bit strange, a little bit wide in the back, the tail pod. I don't know. But that was probably the angle of the camera. I don't know. But it'd be another story if I was there picking up the boards and feeling the rails, and you would have your own. I'd make my own choice of which board I would think would be the best. But obviously, Jack's the man doing the job.
And on the flip side of that, because obviously you would be fuming if you were Pang and that board doesn't get ridden. But at the same time, how many people I know, and you two probably the same, judge a board like as soon as they pick it up, when they just tuck it under their arm and give it that little wiggle? Like you say, you then go and you think, oh, this board feels amazing. So you'll go in to surf it with a really positive attitude. Whereas if you pick up one and you're like, this feels a bit weird, then if you do something weird first surf, you're straight away blaming the board. So it's actually something that happens like day to day with people in surf shops. They pick up a board and go, that feels a bit funky, and won't want to surf it. So
here's one then. How's like guys now, because it's so huge now that people go in and buy their board in a surf shop. They take a board out of stock. For me, and even like my last few Fipsies, it's the same model, and I'm changing. I still don't really know in my mind how it's going to go until you stand on it the first time. And you know how many boards I had off you over the years, where like because we play around and stuff, and you never know how board's going to go until you stand up on it a lot of the time. And people have to go in and put €650 down. It's still a little bit of gamble, unless obviously now a similar model is going to go the same. But they can go different, can't they? The same model, even the same dimensions.
I could shape a board in my bay and go, oh wow, that feels absolutely spot on, amazing. And then after it comes through the glassing process and the sanding process, you go, it's not that good, It doesn't feel like I wanted it to. But in the shaping bay, it felt amazing. I mean, the possibility of this happening as for the stab boards is that as well, Like a lot of things that can go wrong in the glassing process. The fins might be a little bit off, or things happen that could probably wreck the board. The glassing is just that little bit too. I'm talking for top surfers. There could be just that little bit too much resin left on it that adds that little amount of weight. Or
we'll see. He said the Pukas board felt
super light.
Yeah.
And that could work. That could work against you in a place like Hawaii, and it could be a massive plus at the same time.
So, with like, say for example, when you was in it, and you was shaping for Geordie, did you pay more attention to that one board, knowing that it was going on stab in the dark? So did you before, so you shaped it, made sure it felt sweet, then was you like seeing it through, making sure the fins were spot on and that, or did you just go, right, let's treat it like normal?
No, you're watching.
Yeah, I watched most of them, and even at the end there was ones that were slightly different. We had to do 4, and I had to pick one that I wanted to be ridden. So whether it had to go all the way to Australia, 4 of them got sent. I don't even know if it was even the right one that got surfed out of it, but they're all identical, as close as we could get.
As close as you could get with a handmade product.
But cool. The thing is with these guys, like the top, the pros, they don't just get 1 or 2 boards. Okay, they're getting they're getting quivers of boards, so they're getting 4 to 10 to 12 boards at a time that are the same board. So they're going to go, pick it up, feel the weight, feel the volume of the rail. They're going to, feel how it feels under the arm. They're going to just feel the volume, and then they're going to say yes or no. Or they're going to make a decision straight away as soon as they pick that board up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works where, they go and surf it and they didn't think it felt that great under the arm, but then they go and surf it and it's amazing. So then you've made, and if the shaper's made any changes to a board that isn't, like you're adding volume or something, and it works, you've made a step forward in design, Okay, so
somewhere every time you make a quiver for Leo, or back when you used to make a quiver for Kelly or a quiver for Jeremy, each time it is kind of like a mini stab in the dark.
Yeah. Because
one always seemed to come out of the group, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then it'd come back, and that's the magic one. It'd come back, and you've got to remember the serial number and go off that.
Yeah. Well, I write down every board that I do, and I write, the fin positions, what I did, how much I scooped out of the tail with the surf form, or if I did whatever I did, little notes on that particular surfboard, so you can replicate it. But
so while we're here, what did you think about? How did you think the Pukas board looked under his feet?
Well, on that first episode, I think that board did look the best.
The
other ones did have moments. Yeah, they did look like there was a bit too much volume for Jack. He couldn't really put her on rail, and when you've got that excess volume in the rail and in parts of the board where you don't need it to the way you surf, you're going to be having issues.
Yeah.
The board's you'll see bits where the board looks like it's going to skip, or he can't stay, over the board. He can't keep his weight spread evenly over the board through a turn. That's kind of some signs that the board's over volumed. But when you got a board that looks like he can bury the rail at going top speed, that looks like the balance is kind of right.
And we both said the Puka's board got better waves than the other two.
Yeah, that was another thing. Yeah, because if you look at the waves he's surfing with that board, they're phenomenal.
He probably didn't want to waste the other two that felt funky on good waves.
I surfed the other two in 3 foot, kind of not horrible, maybe Rocky Point or whatever it was, and it looks like the Puka's board kind of got like 4 or 5 foot backdoor or good Rocky Point.
I heard on Stab's podcast they did say that he was going out for long sessions, but being super fussy with the waves he was catching. So yeah, they probably were the best of maybe even worse waves if they're the best that came from it.
A lot of when you do watch him, like we're just watching a little bit now, you can kind of tell he's feeling the board out too. He's feeling it's coming off the bottom. He's feeling how it's coming out of the turns, how it's going into the turns, how it performs, how it holds. Because with high performance boards, especially with elite surfers, they're going to stand up. Their feet are going to be in the right position 99.7% of the time. They're going to be up to your feet. You're ready to go.
That's why they're that good.
Yeah, that's why they're that good. So that's why high performance surfboards are so refined. And if that volume is too much out the tail, where he's trying to push through turns, and it might be perfect for the other surfer who the guy shapes for, but for this guy it's probably that tad too much. So the way he goes through the turn with that extra volume, the board's going to start to skip and feel a little bit out of control. That's why you've got boards that have come, the evolution of the mid-length and everything has come from people who you stand up and you 99, you're 99% in the wrong spot, getting up, So you people have developed this whole range. Well, shapers have developed boards that go no matter where you kind of stand up, and you can work it out as you go along the wave. So
I feel attacked right now, Christian. I feel attacked.
Hey Matt, it's just, and that's it. It's just, and I remember saying that to people when they buy boards. I was like, you're better off having more volume, mate, because you're going to be, if you're under volume and not that level, by the time you jump to your feet, you're going to be late.
Yeah.
It's going to be late takeoff. And 99.7% of the time you can't put the right foot.
Yeah.
And if you've got your feet in the wrong spot on a performance board on a late drop, the wave's over kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You're never getting it back. It's going to be the Bronco that bucked you off. But the more time you put in, you'll work out where you've got to stand to make that board work. And people can change their style. People can change how they surf a board. They'll get. Sometimes you'll hear people who have tried a brand new board and it's a dog at first, and then after a few sessions, it just becomes their favourite ever. Because they've learnt how to surf it.
So with that, because the one thing that a couple of times has happened to me is what fins that I have in the board. Now, obviously, we don't see it, and you don't know, but I'm assuming it seems like from the footage he doesn't change his fins. He rides the same fins in all the boards, which I think is good because obviously it's fair and it keeps that. But with watching him on those other boards, do you think changing the fins would help, or do you think it's just that they're for what he needs, they're too full of that volume in the rail?
Every pro surfer seems to have their fin that works, and they don't change, they don't deviate from the fins.
Yeah.
Mainly because they know that fin's going to work. Well, it has worked, and they don't want to change. They'd rather change the surfboard before changing the fins. Okay, fins are set. But okay, if you see that board that had a lot of volume in the tail, I would suggest. It's kind of obvious you'd try a larger fin in there to see what that did.
Yeah, and he could be on a large set already.
Yeah,
Put
an even bigger set in.
Yeah.
But if the board felt stiff, like one of them felt stiff, I don't know, maybe there's just too much volume there.
Jack strikes me as the character surfer who has that much absolute confidence in his craft that he's not going to start pulling out sort of funky pins or anything like that. Huh?
No.
He knows what he's doing. I've never seen him look super unconfident.
I mean, most of these guys are very particular about their fins. They'll have their fins are like their surfboards. No, that's my fin.
I think it's fair. I don't think it's right to change the fin. I think it's fair to ride the same fin in every board, because obviously when you're doing a test of the best surfboard, you can't then change the fins, because that's not fair.
No, definitely not.
I'm looking at the full quiver in a line here, and I don't know. I'm going to throw an early bet out that I reckon the Takoro's looking pretty good, because one, he's in Hawaii. Two, Takoro's very good in Hawaii. Three, it's got a rounded pin.
Yeah.
And it seems he's going to be in good water.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, like
I don't think he's going to take that board out at Small Rocky Point, is it? It looks he's nursing that for 6 to 10 foot backdoor.
I don't know if they got the brief of where they were going to surf it. I don't know those details, but Hawaii would have been an interesting one. Are you going to?
I think
surf
they will
Hawaii
the brief, because back in the day, they gave the brief for Mentawais for Geordie.
Did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but with that, if someone says to you, okay, it's for the surfer this height, this weight, or surf in Hawaii, I've never been, but I assume you'd probably surf a different board at Sunset than you would at Pipe, obviously. Rocky Point, I'm guessing you'd probably surf the same board as you'd surf Sunset, or maybe a smaller, more high performance board. And then would you have a different board for like Haliva and other places? So it would be quite tricky if they said, oh, it's just Hawaii, because...
Yeah, but they were basing it on a shortboard. So
yeah,
they were going to surf spots that were in that 3 to 6 feet range.
Yeah, he's not going to surf 10-foot pipe on that.
So if it was a Hawaii, what I would do, I'd probably, I wouldn't, you narrow the outline through the tail, probably add a bit of rocker, take some volume out of the tail, I suppose.
But would you be discounting spots?
High speed.
Would you be saying this is stab in the dark, it's not going to be pipe, so I don't need to do a pipe board?
Yeah, for sure. You're doing your regular shortboard, maybe with some minute tweaks just for Hawaii, or what you would think is going to work over there. And all those Hawaiian shapers would have done that. They would have had their boards that go well there. So
okay, so what one? So we
maybe
said
it's interesting to know. Would I pick an Hawaiian shaper over all those other shapers because it's been tested in Hawaii? I would.
I'm betting on what I think. Betting on what I think Jack's going to pick.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking there's going to be a conflict of interest if he picks the Arakawa. So I'm just trying to work out what I want my bet to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might do what Mick done and say this would have won, but I know it's a DHD.
Are you in Channel Islands?
Huh?
Me?
I'm asking Christian if he's bet.
It's hard to tell until you see every episode, I suppose.
Yes, well, that's what we'll be able to delve into next episode.
I mean, you might have one session where he's surfing and you just go, oh my goodness, that's mind-blowing, and then you'll just go, that's the one. But saying that...
Yeah, but then I watched Taj Burrow and I thought Taj looked the fastest on the CI, actually. I thought he looked best on the CI, but then he picked Sharp Eye. So obviously Taj is wrong and I'm right, but...
Yeah.
Well, we'll get that memo typed up during the week.
What about? Okay, so we've said.
Look at the boards again here now, and it does look really weird.
It's kind of deceiving because they're leaning back. The noses are leaning the other way, so it gives the appearance that the tails are a lot wider than they are.
All right, so put where I've said I reckon Pukas might win without even surfing it beforehand, and you boys saying that maybe the Hawaiians. Who do you reckon?
I said Christian's on the fence at the moment.
I'm predicting.
Right, we'll get off the fence. When Geordie absolutely writ off, I think it was a Hayden Shapes, and said it was bogging both rails at the same time and stuff. Who do we reckon this year's he's going to hate it board is? Because he doesn't really hate the two that he writes off this time round. I would say. I reckon there's something in there. I reckon there's one in there.
I think there's too many good shapers there to actually have a board that.
Oh, well played. Well played. There's the politician in Christiaan Bradley.
I think they're all going to go. I mean, they're all going to go to some degree. They're all.
But have you had to bet right now?
He's not going to. What about you, Dad?
DH we can't see there. There's DH and Pukas. Pukas and DH.
He drops it, doesn't he? He drops one of them. The DH, I think.
Cabianca.
But he's already kind of dropped the Cabianca, thinking it was too
Yeah,
thick.
that's why
in
it's
the
making
tail.
it easy. The Cabianca and the Patterson are
The
out.
Patterson are out. So maybe, well, it's going to be, I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know.
What one was the one that he let fall over? I think that was a DHD, wasn't it? Where he just fell over.
Cabianca.
Was it? Oh, okay.
But if, in a way, it depends on how he's going to surf. I mean, you've got to be lucky too. There's a lot of surfing there to do on 13 different boards. So they can't have the exact same surf for each board.
No, I got a feeling
it'll be one of the boards that he has his best surf on. So
and that could be based on the best
waves
surf.
he gets.
Yeah.
So
they usually do a top 5, don't they, and then try and get him to use them all in one go to pick a winner. That's what they usually do. So maybe they'll do that again.
So there's a funny one, because Christian said this to me earlier this evening when we were watching it pre-episode, is how's he going to surf all those boards? Because, we're laymen. I'm maybe less, I'm a layman in talent, but I try and surf a lot, but not even close enough to be able to try and test and judge like 13 boards over, I don't know how long they gave him, but it just shows the freakish amount of water that these kids can put in.
Yeah, and I don't know how, you'd have to donate a certain amount of your surfing time to actually give each board a decent run.
There's one question. There's one question I was going to ask both of you that leads to that. This is obviously before the season, and there's a lot of boards there. So say he dedicates 3 weeks to doing this. Does that play into any fact that he hasn't finaled, like he hasn't taken out one of the events in Hawaii, do you reckon? Or do you think that doesn't affect someone of his level?
He might be on his own crusade to find the best board he can ride. I mean, I've seen him surfing a lot of different boards recently, so he probably took this on as a great opportunity to feel out some different equipment and not be influenced by the logo on the board. But even though he kind of picked which ones he knew, which ones were which.
I reckon that. It didn't affect anything of his pipe. That was more.
No, yeah, and what he's riding here is shortboard. So those two contests that they were surfing you're not going to ride those.
No, it's just a conspiracy theorist in me.
Well, I think he surfed Haleiwa in November. Wasn't it? The pipe didn't start until end of January, and Jack didn't go home, so he was there. Like, for example, they obviously did this in December. So he had a full month to do it, and then he still had 3.5 weeks after that to prepare for pipe.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
About 1,000 surfs.
Yeah. And these guys are surfing, 3 times a day, more, 4 times a day sometimes.
Like a full-time job, so it's 8 hours a day.
Yeah. But, it's a lot of surfing to get through.
Well, we'll wind this one up.
Yeah. See, we usually do a do's and don'ts for surfing. Something that you see or do or that you hate other people doing. Let us know yours.
Something that you should do and something that you shouldn't do.
Well, I've heard from many people now that it's been very aggressive in the surf, not just here in France, but all over the world. There's been a lot of people put off from surfing by the sheer amount of aggression being displayed in the water. People think that they own the waves and can just go out there and take anything they want because they're a better surfer than that person or whatever. So I think that's a big don't. And I've just heard that mentioned by a lot of people recently.
It's a good one.
Surfing's not about that. What's the other one? Do's.
Yeah, something that you do like to do every time you surf, or something that you haven't done that you messed up that you would say, all right, make sure you do that so other people don't mess up.
Involved with surfing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, not bricklaying.
Don't do.
You've just done a don't.
Oh, well.
What should you do?
Be open to change.
That ties in well with this episode.
Yeah, be open to try different stuff. Might change your mind. Your life.
I like it.
How's that?
It's good. I like it. It's definitely better than half of mine where I just make them up, or the one where Darren told everyone not to brush their teeth with Nutella. So
not to brush your teeth with what?
With Nutella.
Who does that?
Welcome to my family.
happen.
Well, once again, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Christian. And we are waiting with bad and bated breath for episode 2 to drop and the next bottle of wine that we'll share.
Yeah, this will be good. Thanks for dinner too, Darren. And
You're welcome.
how long do you reckon to stagger this out? How many episodes? So they do 3 each time?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's four episodes, 1 a week. So the next episode's
One a
actually
week?
dropping, yeah, in the next couple of days.
Oh, well, we'll get back together on after that one.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Steve. It's a pleasure. Always
Exciting.
lovely to chat to you.
Yeah.
And we'll speak early next week. Good evening, punters.
Thank you.
Peace out. Au revoir.